When I heard that Marvel vs. Capcom was coming back in the form of a new compilation, I was stoked. And of course, I decided to wait on the physical release because it's just one of those games that looks so worthy to have it in my hands. And the fact that it came with this small, cool looking comic book is a great touch. With 7 landmark arcade titles to go over, we're looking at 41 trophies to complete. And based on the amount of things that I have to do in order to unlock everything that this collection has to offer, sounds like it's going to be one heck of a marathon. And what better way to start off than the game that kickstarted the partnership between Marvel and Capcom? Released in 1993, The Punisher is the only outlier in this collection, given that it is more of a side-scroller beat-em-up reminiscent of Final Fight. The plot can be summarized in one sentence: Frank Castle avenging his family by dismantling the Kingpin's crime-infested empire. It's a fun brawler, albeit short with only 6 levels to boot, capturing that classic early 90s arcade experience. The shooting and combat was surprisingly satisfying to me, making you feel like that badass Punisher than you really are. As I was clearing my way through this first stage, I took down this big henchman and got my first trophy. Entering the second level didn't feel much different aside from the location itself. I was moving along beating the same wave of enemies from the previous level, until I broke one of these doors that revealed a female prisoner, unlocking my second trophy.
Oh, thank you.
And then I reached to the boss battle, where I had to take down one of Kingpin's big robots named Guardroid. Because I had 1 life at this point and was performing this sweep special attack, which I didn't even know it can drain your health bar, I got annihilated. Thankfully though, I was able to continue from there, which gave me my 3rd trophy. Inevitably, as you progress, the levels tend to amp up the difficulty by bombarding you with enemies left to right, and because of that, you'll find yourself making quick reaction times hoping to not get hurt. It's definitely a whole lot easier when you have a gun from time to time so you can keep yourself at a reasonable distance, if you don't get overwhelmed that is. After defeating the 3rd boss battle, I was transported to this bonus stage that has the like a fish in a barrel trophy, where you had to destroy 20 of these oil drums. Since I failed on my first attempt, I ended up coming back to it later after finishing the story. Level 4 takes place in an underground cave, where you find yourself on a train only to be confronted by the Bushwhacker, who I'm not quite familiar with. In this era of gaming, typically these boss fights can be annoying given their aggressive nature, especially when you have to deal with no more enemies on top of that. After taking him out, the Kingpin becomes so pissed that it's only a matter of time before you run up to him soon enough. It's pretty much rinse and repeat at this point. Move your way through the level, beat up more bad guys along the way, and now they added these Terminator-looking enemies that can stretch their arms and take more hits to kill off? Yeah, I can't say that I was expecting this to be a walk in the park, but nevertheless, I made it to the 5th boss fight, where I had to face off an alternative version of that same android from level 2. And just like that second boss battle, it's a hassle to deal with. Once I finally took it out, I move on to the final level of the game, where my next trophy, 1 badge, 2 badge, penny and a dime, awaits me. This time you're in the Kingpin's tower, where it's all lavish and luxurious. Once I finally reached him, I can already feel that he's gonna be a hassle, and with his goons on his side backing him up, yeah. He possessed such a brute force that I knew there was no chance I was gonna take him out in 1 life. I went all out, even with his guys standing in the way. Despite me getting knocked down twice, it didn't matter because I emerged victorious and beat the game. Because I finished all the way through, I was able to attain a high score on the offline leaderboards, and thus, as planned, I loaded back to the bonus stage and managed to destroy those 20 barrels on my 2nd attempt. After that, I had to play as Nick Fury to complete 1 level so I can unlock the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. trophy. Aside from having his own moves, he's barely any different than the Punisher. Still though, his inclusion means that you can play co-op, which is a nice addition if you haven't tried it out. That being said, little did I realize that I would have to come back and replay the levels as him, all for a trophy that, needless to say, corresponds to the other games in the collection as well. Oh, but that can wait, which will make sense later on. For now, I move on to the game that set the blueprint for what's to come.
X-Men, Children of the Atom.
Released in 1994, X-Men Children of the Atoms really set the foundation of the Versus series that we come to know today, and given that I never played this game prior to this collection, it was great to see where it all started. With 10 on-screen X-Men characters to choose from, Wolverine became my first instinct because you bet I would, especially after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, come on. Immediately, I was getting my ass handed, and to be fair, I should have expected this, but damn, I felt like a newbie just trying to get adjusted to this game's speed, or lack thereof. So of course I lost the battle, but since I was just getting started, with a fresh start, my mind went ahead with Iceman. Admittedly, this game does feel stiff compared to what will come after, but then again, this was the start for what Capcom would improve down the line.
You win.
There's 8 matches to go through, with Magneto essentially being the final boss, so therefore, once you defeat him, you beat the game.
Ice Beam. You win.
For my next trophy, I needed to perform a 50-hit combo. This could be done by activating your Hyper X special moves with characters like Storm and Iceman. Sounds simple, right? Well, if you're playing the training mode, then yeah, but since I was playing the arcade mode to begin with, The problem is that even on the easiest difficulty, the AI can either block it off like it's nothing, or the move will not cause enough hits at all. So the best way of going about it is to play against Sentinel, given his stature. Once I built up my meter and time my activation, it felt like a sigh of relief. Moving forward, I decided to turn off the borders and CRT filters to play these games with that crispy pixel. You had to complete a set of unwritten challenges for 5 fights in a row to encounter Akuma, and to get there, you need to do the following. Set the manual setting which is seen after picking your character, get the first hit in every single round, connect with your Hyper X for at least half the round, and lastly, get the required number of hit combos at least once in the first 5 fights along the way. In my case, I needed to hit a 50-hit combo, since I was playing as Iceman once again, given my previous trophy. Had I knew this beforehand, I could have killed 2 birds in 1 stone, but instead, I found myself ironically feeling heated just for trying to pull that same stun right at the first fight so I can get it over with.
No, come on. This is. Oh, come on. Yo, this shit is pissing me off, man.
You win.
Wow.
If it wasn't for those save states, it would have taken a serious amount of patience to do it perfectly in one go. This really comes in handy because again, you also have to make your first hit in every round as well as perform your Hyper X special move halfway. So please make heavy use of it to ensure that you have landed those requirements. Once you finally encounter Akuma, now you have to face him off and then you unlock that trophy. I'm telling you, even on the lowest settings, the AI can put up a fight if you're not careful. With determination, I kept using my special attack accordingly and took him out as intended.
You win.
With Children of the Atoms out of the way, I move on to the game that went on expanding the Marvel roster.
Marvel Superheroes.
Marvel Superheroes is a game that I almost forgot that it even exists. It wasn't until I played it on the Xbox 360 with the release of Marvel vs. Capcom Origins back in 2012, and man, time flies. Released in 1995, aside from adding varieties to its cast, the main draw that makes this game stand out above the rest is the Infinity Stones, or gems as it was known. Their implementation grants you power-ups like regenerating health, increased speed, strength, basically create a new layer to its fighting mechanics, and it's by using one of them is where you will unlock the suitable Stones trophy, which I will earn roughly soon enough. With Spider-Man being one of my favorite superheroes of all time, of course he will be my first pick. Compared to Children of the Atoms, the controls feel much better than what I was expecting. After winning my first fight, this is where I felt like I was actually more prepared.
One for JJ.
By the second match, the game's flow was already settling in for me, and because of that, I managed to pull off a little air combo, unlocking a whole new world of pain.
Web swing.
Up next is the aforementioned suitable stones. At this point, I already used the Soul, Reality, and Time Stone, but once I used the Power Stone, funnily enough, I guess because since I'm Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Web ball. Power again. Spider sting.
Like Children of the Atoms, there's 8 stages to breeze through, and given that this game is loosely centered around the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, unsurprisingly, Thanos is the final boss. It's crazy to think that this was long before he became a force to be reckoned with, thanks to the massive success of the MCU. And just like the heroes in the Infinity Saga, your goal is to stop him once and for all.
One for JJ.
And for my last trophy in this game, there's the Raiders of the Lost Ruin, where I had to access a hidden area in Shumagorov stage. You had to be in the right side of the stage by either pushing your opponent through it with a strong attack, or in my case, getting pushed through it myself. At this point, I decided to toggle on the lightning reduction, which eliminates those flashing effects. I did it because I find it to be too harsh in the following games, and it's honestly for the best, especially for those of you who have a history with epilepsy. And now, we move on to the one that kickstarted the crossover Versus series.
X-Men vs. Street Fighter.
Released in 1996, X-Men vs. Street Fighter brought 2v2 tag team into the foray, and is widely considered to be one of the first fighting games to pioneer the crossover event, setting the stage for other franchises that will create their own exciting mashups in the years to come. Given that the previous entries mainly let you choose Marvel characters, it's about time that I start out with the main duos from Capcom. Right away, I earned 2 trophies simultaneously, one for defeating my opponents without switching to my second character, and the other for just clearing the first match as usual.
You win.
By the second stage, I was already feeling the vibes, appreciating the familiarity that I come to know with Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2, most notably, performing a crossover combination, which has always been so satisfying. Once you reach to the last stage, your final opponent is Apocalypse, who becomes the literal big boss. It's just you aiming at his head trying to do crucial damage with all you got. Depending on who you decide to finish him off with, you will have to face off your own partner and then take him or her out, thus completing the game.
Mutations versus martial artists.
And then there's the
That's Raging Demon to you, sugar.
you have to play as Rogue to perform Akuma's signature special move to finish up the match. I paired the two together knowing that by the end I would have to face him off. When that moment came, I started building up my meter. To make this easier for the casuals that have a hard time inputting difficult button combinations, thankfully you can assign it so that it's pressed with only one button. With my meter build up, as soon as I was able to perform that special, something fascinating happened.
KO. Rogue wins.
Easy win.
As you can probably tell by now, the trophy didn't pop up. But luckily, I made a quick save to reload back where I was, so I did it again.
KO! Row win!
Easy win.
Still? I don't get it.
I was confused. I mean, the game did give me a clear instruction on what I was supposed to do, so I'm over here thinking, was it glitched? It can't be. As it turns out, I have to use a second controller for this to work. And yet, nowhere in the game itself does it mention that. At the very least, it's an easy setup that can be done quick. Mind you, you don't necessarily have to win the match against Akuma. You just have to make sure you absorb his energy first so you can acquire his signature special move as you're about to KO your opponent. As I'm leaning closer to the main title that popularized this franchise, next up,
Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter!
Released in 1997, Marvel vs. Street Fighter essentially took the same ideas from X-Men vs. Street Fighter, much like what Marvel Superheroes did with X-Men Children of the Atoms. No surprise there. However, what it did bring new to the table are the assists, a mechanic that will become a staple for every tag team fighting game moving forward. Plus, if you switch it to the Japanese version, you'll be able to play this exclusive crossover character named Norimaru, who's based on a real-life Japanese comedian. Because of that, for many of us, this makes it the first time we got him as a playable character outside of Japan. To begin with, I decided to start off with Ryo and Ken just like last time, mainly because you have to perform a crossover combination that actually requires them this time around. Considering that the gameplay feels relatively the same as expected, it wasn't long before I was able to finish my first fight.
Okay, combination finish! You win! Welcome to the adventure!
Following that up, for my next trophy, from the shadows, I had to perform at least one of these 3 crossover combination challenges so I can encounter a secret challenger. In my case, it was Dark Sakura, who was alongside Akuma. And from there, all I had to do is just win. By the time I got to face off Apocalypse once again, I thought he was going to be my final opponent because of, you know, deja vu. Instead, however, this time it's Cyber Akuma, and I gotta say, he's a savage, to the point where I had to reload back my save state many times because of how tough he was.
Oh, oh wow. Damn. What the fuck, man? I need a brief. I need a brief. Let's go. Remade with real power.
And for the last trophy, Keep Your Day Job, you have to perform Dan's secret entrance. To do this, you have to hold the square button as the fight is about to start, and if done correctly, you will see this.
Ready, fight!
Although this game and X-Men vs. Street Fighter could be clearly viewed as included in the Marvel vs. Capcom series, it wasn't until 1998 that we would get its first official title that made this franchise finally realized.
Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes!
This was the game that introduced me to this series, and fittingly so, thanks to the Sega Dreamcast. And of course, the last time I played it prior to this collection was when it was released alongside with Marvel Superheroes in the aforementioned Marvel vs. Capcom Origins. This was it. with Capcom finally breaking away from having only Street Fighter rosters on their side. And so, I decided that Jin would be my first pick, along with Venom, as he was a new inclusion. New to this game is the ability to call out your randomized 36 character known as Special Partners. And just within the first few seconds, the crossover combination special returns, but they also included a new variant known as Dual Team Attack. When executing said special, this allows you and your secondary character to attack your opponent simultaneously, while also giving you infinite hyper combo gauge for a limited time.
Venom.
Let's go crazy!
Talk about winning. At the end of the match, if you hold the start button, you can freely move around for a few seconds as your score is being calculated. Which brings me to my next trophy. This one's a keeper. You have to pull off a pose on a victory message screen that nets 10,000 points or more. In my case, I use Jin's dynamite attack, which looks comical, and if you time it correctly, once you reach to the last stage, this time it is Onslaught. The first phase isn't that bad since he's much easier to get a hold on, but the second phase, he turns into what is, in my opinion, one of the most erratic boss fights that I've ever encountered. Similar to Apocalypse, he's big, and you have to jump more often to inflict damage as intended. But here, he flies around way too comfortably, making it a pain in the ass to attack him efficiently when you need to. Since this was my first attempt, luckily I was able to hold my own and secure the victory.
KO!
Venom. Win.
And to save the best for last, we got what is arguably one of Capcom's magnum opus, the main selling point of this collection.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes.
Released in the year 2000, what else can I say that others have already said? It is one of the most celebrated entries in the fighting game community, and when it was re-released in HD back in 2009, my teenage self was ecstatic. I owned the Xbox 360 version, and to this day, I still think it's one of the best ports to ever grace the console market since the Dreamcast. With a whopping 56 characters to choose from, this practically puts every previous outing to shame. If that wasn't enough, Capcom decided to one-up by implementing 3-on-3 battles this time around, exploring for creative combo possibilities. And of course, you can expect the game to reward you for going through your first match with a trophy that's fittingly called
The battle for survival begins. You win.
Oh man, I almost had a heart attack there.
You win. The battle will now unfold. This is Marvel versus Capcom Series.
Aside from the returning hyper gauge and the assist mechanic, there's also the snapback move, where it sends your opponent flying out the arena and switches in their partner, which gets you the trophy, exit stage left. The give him the old 1-2 is something that you can earn naturally, as it requires your opponent to call out one of their assists so you can attack both of them at the same time. By the time you reach the final stage, you'll face off Abyss, an original boss character made specifically for this title. Being that this is a 3-on-3 battle, you damn right there's going to be 3 phases you need to go through to take him out. At this point, it felt inevitable that I was going to get a trophy for finishing the last match, and just like the jaunt across the universe for finishing up my first match in every game of this collection, you'll also get another trophy for completing all the games in the collection, and rightfully so. Speaking of completion, this brings us to our final trophy, that ultimate medal that is going to secure us in getting the platinum.
Monumental in
The multiverse. Basically, you had to 100% everything by completing every character in each of the 7 games. That alone sounds intimidating, and with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 having the largest roster known to man, it's gonna be a grind fest. Like, you're gonna be playing Wolverine not once, not twice, not the third, heck, not even the 4th time, but 7 different times. From a gameplay perspective, I honestly couldn't tell the difference between these two at a quick glance because they're exactly identical. Nevertheless, this brings me back to the Punisher, where I had to complete the whole game as Nick Fury. There's a reason why I decided to go through each title one by one, because as convenient as the save state really is, the downside is that they're all tied together at once, rather than each game containing its own individual save. So say I'm 4 levels in and at any point I decide to take a break and play Marvel superheroes to work on one of my characters and then try to create a save for that game. That's not possible unless I want to override my previous progress, and that sucks. Then again, it does reinforce you to focus on one game at a time. After earning my accolade for finishing the Punisher the 2nd time around, logically I went straight ahead to Children of the Atoms, as I intend to go over each title chronologically. Earlier I mentioned that this game has 10 characters, but in reality, it has 14 in total, and that's because this, along with the 4 other games that followed, have secret characters. I appreciate the fact that you don't have to go online to find out how to access them, and that in and of itself is wonderful to see. Interestingly though, some of these secret characters don't have their own ending cutscenes. Take Magneto for example, who's one of the strongest characters, which makes sense since he's essentially the final boss in this game. But the fact that it just suddenly skips to the credits once you finish the last match, I was left feeling a little baffled.
You win. You are beaten. Magneto. Yes.
It just ends like that.
When choosing another character, it doesn't change the game's design aside from randomizing who you fight first. As I was working on Silver Samurai, initially I thought it was going to be a laborious process as anticipated, but along the way, I discovered a method on how to minimize it. As you reach to the last stage to fight your final opponent once again, what you want to do is let him kick your ass until he finishes you off or let the timer run out. From there, it will ask if you want to continue, which of course you confirm. This will bring you back to the character select screen, and from there, you can create your save state. Once you finish with said character and go through their endings, exit the game so you can see that you have earned that character's accolade. And then all you gotta do is go back, load up your save, choose a different character, rinse, and repeat. Although cheesy, this speeds up the process greatly, and I can confirm to you that this method works for all the titles. Just remember to create a save state once you move on to the next game that you're working on. Lastly, for the games that pair you with a partner, luckily, they count as well, meaning that you don't have to defeat the final boss with each individual character. As long as they're in your team, the game will count them as completing the game.
Congratulations! 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 Congratulations!
And now, for the grand finale.
The battle survival begins.
Engage!
Get ready to kick butt.
Engage!
Thanks for
This is it.
playing
This should be
Marvel
it.
vs. Capcom 2. Your name will be inscribed.
Monumental in the multiverse. Yes. Now, yes, and I got the platinum. My first platinum of 2025. Let's go. Let's go.
In conclusion, this platinum indeed took me for a ride. The idea of having to complete 143 various characters might seem overwhelming at first, but thanks to its customization options and the ability to track your progress, makes this collection a welcoming experience. As such, it is easily accessible for new players, and if you're a fan, this is a no-brainer. Not only are these games represented in their purest form, but it's also a celebration of a bygone era that flooded our shopping centers at one point. Even checking out the gallery adds another nice trip down memory lane, seeing its history from the game's box art that we're familiar with to the marquee cards that was displayed back in the good old days of the arcades. The nostalgia is undeniable, and thankfully, the journey was convenient. Thank you so much for watching. For more Platinum content, stay tuned. Until then, may peace be with you.